It was a land of endless horizons, where the sun blazed down on the desert sands and the wind carried whispers of untold secrets. In the heart of this wild frontier stood a solitary ranch, its wooden fence stretching far into the distance, marking the boundaries of what belonged to one man and his stubborn determination. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight kissed the earth, the rancher would step outside his cabin, only to find the same disheartening sight awaiting him. The fence he had so painstakingly built during the night lay in ruins, torn down not from the outside, but from within. It was an enigma that gnawed at his soul, a mystery that refused to be solved. The ranch itself was nestled between two towering mesas, their jagged peaks casting long shadows over the dusty plains below. To the east flowed a river, its waters shimmering like liquid silver under the watchful eyes of the stars at night. A cluster of cottonwood trees stood guard near the riverbank, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze, offering solace and shade to weary travelers who dared venture this far into the unknown. But it was not just the natural beauty of the land that made this place special. No, there was something more, a feeling, a presence that lingered in the air, unseen yet undeniably real. The rancher could feel it every time he stepped outside, a weight pressing down on his shoulders, urging him to uncover the truth behind the nightly vandalism of his fence. He was a man of few words, weathered by years of hardship and loss. His face bore the lines of countless battles fought against nature's fury, and his hands were calloused from years of hard labor. Yet beneath his rugged exterior lay a heart burdened by sorrow, for he had lost everything, his family, his dreams, even his faith in the world around him. All that remained was this piece of land, a reminder of what once was, and perhaps, if fortune smiled upon him, what could still be. As the days turned into weeks, the rancher grew increasingly desperate. He worked tirelessly through the nights, repairing the fence only to wake up each morning to find it destroyed again. Little did he know that the answers he sought were buried deeper than he could imagine, hidden in the very soil beneath his feet. The nights were always the hardest. Under the vast canopy of stars, the silence seemed deafening, broken only by the occasional howl of a distant coyote or the soft hoot of an owl perched high in the branches of a lone tree. The rancher would sit by the fire, staring into flames as they danced and flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls of his cabin. His mind raced with questions, each one more troubling than the last. Who, or what, was tearing down his fence? Was it some mischievous trickster playing games with him? Or was it something darker, something supernatural that lurked in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? He tried to reason with himself, telling himself it must be human hands at work, perhaps a rival rancher seeking to sabotage his efforts, or thieves looking to steal his cattle. But deep down, he knew these explanations were too simple, too convenient. One evening, as the sky darkened and the first stars began to appear, the rancher decided he could no longer ignore the signs. There was a pattern to the destruction, a method to the madness. The sections of the fence that were torn down each night were always the same ones, the easternmost posts, closest to the river. This discovery filled him with both hope and dread. Hope, because it meant there might be a logical explanation after all. Dread, because it also suggested that whatever was responsible was deliberate, calculated. Armed with nothing but a lantern in his resolve, the rancher set out to investigate. The ground beneath his boots crunched softly as he walked along the perimeter of his property, the light from his lantern casting long shadows that stretched and twisted like ghostly fingers reaching for him. The air was cool, carried with the faint scent of pine from the forest beyond, mixed with the earthy aroma of damp soil near the riverbank. When he reached the eastern edge of his land, he stopped abruptly. Something was different here, something he hadn't noticed before. Beneath the surface of the ground, partially concealed by tufts of grass and patches of dry dirt, were strange markings, symbols etched into the earth, almost as if someone had deliberately carved them there. They looked ancient, their meaning lost to time, but their presence was undeniable. The rancher knelt down, brushing away the loose dirt to reveal more of the markings. His heart pounded in his chest as he traced the lines with his fingertips, feeling the rough texture of the carvings beneath his skin. What did they mean? Who had made them and why? Before he could dwell on these questions any further, a sound broke through the stillness of the night, a low growl, deep and menacing, emanating from somewhere nearby. The rancher froze, his blood running cold, as he slowly turned his head toward the source of the noise. At first, he saw nothing, just a dark expanse of the prairie stretching endlessly before him. But then, emerging from the shadows, came a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a wolf, but not just any wolf. Its fur was pitch black, gleaming in the moonlight like polished obsidian, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural intensity, burning like embers in the darkness. It stood tall and proud, its stance commanding respect and fear in equal measure. For a moment, the rancher simply stared, paralyzed by the creature's presence. Then, without warning, the wolf let out another growl, louder this time, and charged forward. Instinct took over as the rancher scrambled to his feet, grabbing his lantern and backing away quickly. The wolf pursued him relentlessly, its claws digging into the ground with each powerful stride. The rancher ran as fast as he could, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he sprinted back toward the safety of his cabin. Behind him, the wolf's growls echoed ominously, a chilling reminder of the danger that awaited him in the dark. When he finally reached the cabin, he slammed the door shut behind him, bolting it tightly before collapsing onto the floor, trembling with exhaustion and fear. Outside, the wolf circled the building, its glowing eyes peering through the cracks in the wooden walls, searching for a way inside. The rancher clutched his rifle tightly, ready to defend himself if necessary, but the creature eventually retreated, disappearing into the night as mysteriously as it had appeared. Days passed, and the rancher found himself haunted by the memory of the black wolf. He couldn't shake the feeling that it was connected to the destruction of his fence, that it was part of some larger conspiracy he didn't fully understand. Determined to uncover the truth, he ventured deeper into the surrounding wilderness, exploring areas he had never dared to go before. To the north lay a dense forest, its towering pines standing like sentinels guarding secrets long forgotten. Within its depths, the rancher discovered remnants of an old settlement, crumbling buildings overtaken by vines and moss, their windows empty sockets, staring blankly into the void. Among the ruins, he found artifacts that spoke of a people who had lived here long ago, pottery shards, rusted tools, and fragments of clothing worn thin by time. In the center of the settlement stood a large stone altar, its surface covered in the same symbols he had seen near his fence. Running his fingers over the carvings, the rancher felt a strange energy emanating from them, as though they held power beyond comprehension. Beside the altar lay a journal, its leather cover cracked and brittle with age. With trembling hands, he opened it, revealing pages filled with cryptic writings and sketches of creatures that resembled the black wolf. The journal told the story of a tribe that had once thrived in this region, living in harmony with the land and its spirits. However, when settlers arrived, bringing with them greed and destruction, the balance was shattered. The tribe fought valiantly to protect their home, but ultimately fell victim to disease and warfare. In their final hours, they performed a ritual, calling upon the spirit of the land to guard their sacred places forevermore. As the rancher read on, he realized the truth that had eluded him for so long. The black wolf was not just a random predator. It was the embodiment of the land's fury, punishing those who dared desecrate its sanctity. And his fence, built without regard for the ancient markings, had unknowingly trespassed upon sacred ground. Overwhelmed by guilt and understanding, the rancher returned to his ranch, determined to make amends. He dismantled the offending section of the fence, replacing it with offerings of gratitude, a bundle of herbs tied with string, a small carving of a wolf crafted from wood, and a promise to respect the land and its history moving forward. That night, as he sat by the fire, the rancher heard a familiar growl. This time, however, it was not filled with menace, but with acknowledgement. Stepping outside, he saw the black wolf standing at the edge of his property, its glowing eyes fixed on him. Without a word, the creature turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a sense of peace that had been missing for so long. From that day on, the rancher's fence remained intact, untouched by the forces that had once sought to destroy it. Though the land still held many mysteries, the rancher no longer feared them. Instead, he embraced them, knowing that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. And so, under the watchful gaze of the stars, he continued to tend to his land, grateful for the second chance he had been given, and vowing never to forget the hidden truths buried beneath the surface. The days that followed were filled with a quiet serenity, as though the land itself had finally found peace. The rancher worked diligently, his movements steady and purposeful, each task carried out with newfound respect for the world around him. He repaired the remaining sections of his fence, ensuring they aligned perfectly with the ancient markings he had discovered. It was a labor of love, born from an understanding that this land was not merely his to claim, but a sacred trust passed down through generations unknown. As the weeks turned into months, the ranch began to flourish in ways the rancher could never have imagined. The cattle grew strong and healthy, their coats gleaming under the golden sunlight. The fields produced crops abundant enough to sustain him through even the harshest winters. And yet, despite these blessings, the rancher could not shake the feeling that there was more to this place than met the eye. The land seemed alive, pulsing with energy, as though it whispered secrets only those willing to listen could hear. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the rancher noticed something peculiar. A faint light emanated from the forest to the north, flickering like a distant campfire. Intrigued, he grabbed his lantern and set off toward the source, his boots crunching softly against the dry earth. The closer he got, the stronger the light became, until he stood at the edge of a clearing bathed in an ethereal glow. In the center of the clearing stood a circle of stones, their surfaces etched with the same symbols he had seen before. Within the circle burned a fire unlike any he had ever encountered. Its flames danced with colors that defied nature, shifting between blues, greens, and purples. Surrounding the fire were figures cloaked in shadows, their forms indistinct yet undeniably human. They moved in unison, their gestures deliberate and meaningful, as though performing a ritual long forgotten by time. The rancher hesitated, unsure whether to approach or retreat. But then one of the figures turned toward him, its face illuminated briefly by the dancing flames. It was not a face of malice or fear, but one of kindness and wisdom, eyes that seemed to see straight into his soul. With a gentle nod, the figure beckoned him forward. Summoning his courage, the rancher stepped into clearing, his heart pounding in his chest. As he approached the circle, the figures parted, allowing him passage to the fire. There, amidst the swirling colors of the flames, he saw visions of the past, present, and future. He saw the tribe that had once called this land home, their lives intertwined with the spirits of the earth and sky. He saw himself standing on this very spot, learning the lessons of humility and reverence. And he saw glimpses of what was to come, a future where harmony reigned, where man and nature coexisted in balance. When the visions faded, the figure spoke, its voice resonating like the wind through the trees. "You have been chosen," it said, "to carry the torch of knowledge, to protect this land and honor its history. Will you accept this responsibility?" The rancher bowed his head, humbled by the weight of the question. "I will," he replied, his voice steady and resolute. "I will do all that is asked of me." Satisfied, the figure handed him a small stone, smooth and cool to the touch, its surface inscribed with the same symbols he had come to recognize. "This is your talisman," the figure explained. "It will guide you and remind you of your duty. Use it wisely." With that, the figures faded into the night, leaving the rancher alone in the clearing. The fire continued to burn brightly, its colors now subdued, reflecting the calm determination that had settled over him. Clutching the stone in his hand, he made his way back to the ranch, his mind filled with thoughts of the journey ahead. The following days brought challenges, as they always do in the Wild West. Storms rolled in, their thunder echoing across the plains, testing the strength of the newly rebuilt fence. Predators prowled the edges of property, their eyes glinting in the moonlight, daring to challenge the boundaries set forth. Yet, with each trial, the rancher felt the presence of the land guiding him, strengthening him, reminding him of the promise he had made. There were moments of doubt, of course, times when the weight of responsibility threatened to overwhelm him, when the loneliness of the frontier pressed down upon his shoulders. But through it all, he held fast to the stone, drawing comfort from its silent assurance. He spoke often with the black wolf, whose visits became less frequent, but no less meaningful. In its glowing eyes, he saw a reflection of the land's spirit, a constant reminder of the bond they shared. And so, the rancher lived his life, Tending to his land with care and devotion, he welcomed travelers who passed through, sharing stories of the old settlement and the lessons he had learned. Some listened with skepticism, dismissing his tales as mere folklore. Others listened with awe, recognizing the truth in his words and the wisdom in his eyes. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation was within the rancher himself. No longer was he a man burdened by loss and despair. Instead, he had become a guardian, a keeper of the flame, carrying the torch of knowledge passed down to him by those who had come before. His heart, once heavy with sorrow, now beat with purpose, driven by a mission greater than himself. Years passed, and the rancher grew old, his hair turning silver beneath the relentless sun. Yet his spirit remained young, vibrant with the energy of the land he loved. On his final night, as he lay beneath the stars, he clutched the stone tightly in his hand, whispering a prayer of gratitude to the spirits that had guided him throughout his life. As dawn broke, casting its golden light over the prairie, the rancher was gone, leaving behind only the memories of his deeds and the legacy of his commitment. The fence stood tall, untouched by time, a testament to the harmony he had achieved. And in the distance, the black wolf howled, its voice carried by the wind, a farewell to the man who had understood the true meaning of belonging to the land. Thus ended the tale of the rancher and his fence, a story of mystery, discovery, and redemption. For in the Wild West, where the horizon stretched endlessly and the winds carry whispers of eternity, the land remembers those who honor it and rewards them with a peace that transcends all understanding. The rancher's passing marked the end of an era, yet the land continued to thrive under the watchful eyes of those who came after him. His legacy lived on in the stories told around campfires, whispered by travelers and shared by settlers who admired his dedication. The fence, now a symbol of respect for the sacred ground, stood as a testament to the harmony achieved between man and nature. Years turned into decades, and the world beyond the ranch changed rapidly. Railroads stretched across the continent, connecting distant towns and cities with iron tracks that echoed the relentless march of progress. Telegraph lines hummed with messages, bridging gaps once thought insurmountable. Yet, amidst these changes, the ranch remained untouched, a sanctuary preserved by those who understood its significance. Among the new caretakers was a young woman named Alara, whose family had inherited the land from the rancher's kin. She possessed a curious spirit, always eager to learn about the history of the place she now called home. From her grandmother, she heard tales of the mysterious fence and the black wolf, stories that sparked both wonder and reverence within her heart. Though she doubted their veracity at first, dismissing them as mere legends, there was something about the land itself that drew her deeper into its mysteries. Alara spent countless hours exploring the property, tracing the same paths the old rancher had walked so many years ago. She discovered hidden groves where wildflowers bloomed in vibrant hues, streams that sang softly as they meandered to the rocks, and ancient carvings etched into stone, their meanings lost to time but their presence undeniable. Each discovery fueled her curiosity, urging her to uncover more of the secrets buried beneath the surface. One day, while tending the cattle near the eastern edge of the property, Alara noticed something unusual, a patch of earth that seemed softer than the surrounding ground. Intrigued, she knelt down and began digging, her hands working tirelessly until she uncovered a small wooden box, its surface weathered by age. Inside lay a collection of items, a journal written in a language she didn't recognize, a map drawn with intricate detail, and a pendant identical to the one described in the stories of the rancher. The journal intrigued her most, its pages filled with symbols and diagrams that hinted at rituals and ceremonies performed long ago. Though she couldn't decipher much of it, she felt a strange connection to its contents, as though the words were meant for her to find. Determined to unlock its secrets, she brought it back to the cabin, spending nights poring over its contents, searching for patterns or clues that might reveal its purpose. As days turned into weeks, Alara became increasingly absorbed in her quest. She ventured further into the forest, following the map's markings to places she had never been before. In one secluded clearing, she found another circle of stones, similar to the one described in the rancher's tales. Standing at its center, she held the pendant aloft, feeling a surge of energy course through her body, as though the land itself acknowledged her presence. It was then that she heard the growl, a deep, resonant sound that sent shivers down her spine. Turning quickly, She saw the black wolf emerge in the shadows, its glowing eyes fixed intently on hers. Unlike the fear inspired by such encounters in the past, Ilara felt no alarm, only a sense of recognition, as though the creature knew her just as she knew it. "Are you here to guide me?" she asked aloud, her voice steady despite the awe coursing through her veins. The wolf tilted its head slightly, a gesture that seemed almost human. Then, with a single bound, it leaped forward, brushing past her and disappearing into the trees. Ilara followed instinctively, her heart pounding with anticipation as she chased after the elusive figure. The forest grew darker, the air cooler, until she emerged into a vast cavern hidden deep within the mountainside. Inside the cavern, the walls shimmered with crystals that glowed faintly in the dim light. At its center stood an altar, larger and more elaborate than any she had seen before. Upon it rested a book bound in leather, its cover embossed with the same symbols she had encountered throughout her journey. Drawing closer, Ilara reached out hesitantly, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the cool surface. When she opened the book, a rush of knowledge flooded her mind, visions of the tribe that had once inhabited this land, their customs, their struggles, and their ultimate sacrifice to protect their home. She saw the ritual performed by the rancher, his act of humility restoring balance to the disrupted harmony. And finally, she saw herself standing in this very spot, chosen to carry the torch of understanding into the future. Overwhelmed, Ilara sank to her knees, tears streaming down her face as the weight of her newfound responsibilities settled upon her shoulders. But even in her vulnerability, she felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that she was not alone. The spirits of the land, embodied by the black wolf and the glowing crystals, surrounded her, offering guidance and strength. Returning to the ranch, Ilara dedicated herself to preserving its history and ensuring its protection for generations to come. She shared what she had learned with others, teaching them the importance of respecting the land and honoring its past. Under her care, the ranch flourished, attracting visitors from far and wide who came to witness the wonders it held. Yet, even as the world outside continued to evolve, the ranch remained a timeless sanctuary, a place where the whispers of the past mingled with the hopes of the future. And though the black wolf appeared less frequently now, its presence lingered in the hearts of those who understood its significance. A reminder that some bonds transcend time, binding us to the earth and each other in ways we may never fully comprehend. Thus, the cycle continued, echoing the lessons of the rancher and the mysteries he had uncovered. For in the Wild West, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the winds carry secrets untold, the land remains ever vigilant, waiting for those brave enough to listen and wise enough to understand. And so, the story of the fence, torn down and rebuilt, lives on, a tale of redemption, respect, and the enduring power of harmony between man and nature. The years rolled on like the endless waves of a great ocean, each one bringing new challenges and opportunities to the ranch. Under Ilara's stewardship, the land flourished in ways that seemed almost magical, as though the very earth itself had awakened to her touch. The cattle grew healthier, the crops more bountiful, and the air carried a sweetness that drew travelers from far and wide. They came seeking refuge, stories, or simply a glimpse of the mysterious forces at play within these sacred boundaries. Ilara became known throughout the region as a guardian of wisdom, a keeper of secrets whispered by the winds and carried by the rivers. Her reputation spread beyond the dusty trails of the frontier, reaching even the bustling towns where progress hummed with the clatter of machinery and the chatter of eager settlers. Yet despite her growing fame, she remained humble, always mindful of the lessons passed down through generations, lessons etched into the stones, carved into wood of the fence, and reflected in the glowing eyes of the black wolf. One summer evening, as the sun dipped below the mesas, painting the sky in fiery hues of amber and crimson, a stranger arrived at the ranch. He was a tall man, his face weathered by countless journeys across the plains, his boots caked with dirt from roads unknown. His name was Silas, and he carried with him an aura of mystery that set him apart from the usual visitors who sought solace at Ilara's doorstep. Silas introduced himself politely but spoke little of his past, choosing instead to observe the land with keen interest. As he wandered the property, his sharp eyes caught details others might have missed. The alignment of the fence posts with the ancient markings, the subtle shifts in the wind that carried whispers of unseen presences, and the way the cattle seemed to move with intelligence beyond their nature. It was clear to Alara that this man was no ordinary traveler. He was searching for something specific, something tied to the mysteries of the land. Curiosity piqued. Alara invited Silas to stay the night, offering him shelter and food while pressing him gently for answers. At first, he resisted, his words guarded and evasive, but as the fire crackled warmly beside them, casting dancing shadows on the cabin walls, Silas finally relented, sharing fragments of his story. "I am not here by chance," he began, his voice low and steady. "I have been following a trail of clues left behind by my ancestors, a trail that leads me here, to this very place. You see, I come from a lineage connected to the tribe that once called this land home. My family have preserved their knowledge through generations, passing down artifacts and teachings meant to unlock the secrets of the earth." Alara listened intently, her heart racing with excitement and anticipation. She knew instinctively that Silas' arrival was no coincidence. It was part of the larger tapestry woven by the spirits of the land. Encouraged by her attentiveness, Silas continued, revealing that he possessed a key, an artifact believed to awaken the dormant powers hidden within the earth. This key, however, required another element to function fully, the talisman once held by the old rancher. Hearing this, Alara felt a surge of purpose course through her veins. She retrieved the stone from its resting place, holding it reverently as she handed it to Silas. Together, they studied the carvings upon both objects, marveling at how perfectly they complemented one another. The symbols aligned seamlessly, forming a pattern that revealed a map leading deep into the heart of the mountains. Without hesitation, Alara and Silas set out on their journey, guided by the stars and the faint glow of the crystals embedded in the earth. The path was treacherous, winding through dense forests and jagged cliffs, but neither faltered, driven by the promise of discovery. Along the way, they encountered trials that tested their resolve, a raging river that forced them to swim against the current, a storm that threatened to bury them beneath its fury, and a den of predators whose growls echoed ominously in the darkness. Through it all, the black wolf appeared intermittently, watching over them with silent vigilance. Its presence reassured Alara, reminding her of the bond she shared with the land and its protectors. With each step forward, she felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier, yet her determination never wavered. Finally, after days of relentless travel, they reached their destination, a cavern so vast it seemed to swallow the light entirely. Within its depths lay a chamber adorned with carvings identical to those found elsewhere on the ranch. At its center stood an altar, its surface pulsing with a soft, otherworldly light. Upon it rested a crystal, its facets refracting beams of color that danced across the walls. Silas approached the altar cautiously, placing the key and the talisman upon its surface. As he did so, the crystal flared to life, releasing a wave of energy that filled the chamber with warmth and illumination. Visions erupted around them. Visions of the tribe performing rituals, of the spirits of the land rising to defend their home, and of a prophecy foretelling the union of two souls destined to restore balance to the world. Alara watched in awe as the visions unfolded, her mind struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what she witnessed. Silas, too, was moved, his hands trembling as he realized the full extent of his mission. Together, they knelt before the altar, offering their gratitude and pledging to honor the legacy entrusted to them. When the vision subsided, the crystal dimmed, leaving behind a sense of peace that permeated the air. Alara and Silas emerged from the cavern transformed, their hearts filled with purpose and their minds expanded by newfound knowledge. They returned to the ranch, where the land greeted them with open arms, its spirits whispering their approval. From that day forward, Alara and Silas worked side by side, combining their strengths to safeguard the land and its secrets. They welcomed seekers of truth, teaching them the importance of harmony and respect. Under their guidance, the ranch became a beacon of hope, a place where the past and present intertwined to create a brighter future. And though the black wolf appeared less frequently now, its presence lingered in the hearts of all who understood its significance, a reminder that some bonds transcend time, binding us to the earth and to each other in ways we may never fully comprehend. Thus, the cycle continued, echoing the lessons of the rancher and the mysteries he had uncovered. For in the Wild West, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the winds carry secrets untold. The land remains ever vigilant, waiting for those brave enough to listen and wise enough to understand. And so, the store of the fence, torn down and rebuilt, lives on, a tale of redemption, respect, and the enduring power of harmony between man and nature.